Welcome to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio with your host, motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Be sure to check out Greg at www.gregdwyer.com. That's www.gregdwyer.com. Now on to our show. Take it away, Greg.
So here it is, January 15th, 2023. 15 days into the new year. So the question I have for you is, how you doing? How are you doing? The topic today is failure, success. Is it possible to reconcile the two? Yes, absolutely. We're going to talk about how to reframe or understand failure. That's what this is all going to be about. So if you were here last week or the week after that, and you know I'm talking about having a clear focus for the new year, you know that it's really important to me that I communicate to you that you might want to write some things down. Because if you're just going to go through the new year not knowing where you've been or where you're going, it's hard to navigate. It really, really is. So I've been taking notes and journaling for many, many years. I really, truly believe in it, and I really think it'll change your life. Easy to do, easy not to do. We talked about journaling, just writing down a few things every single day, and then reflecting on it throughout the day, throughout the month, and then at the end of the year, December 31st or December 30th or towards the end, you kind of get an idea of where your year went or your month went or your week went. You know, you have a track record. Now, why do most people stop? You know, they say they want to improve their relationships, or they say they want to improve their health or their finances or their career or their emotion. What's the one thing that gets in the way? I've been studying this for many years. It's fear. It's not wanting to get outside of the comfort zone. And in reality, it's people don't want to fail. They don't want to look foolish. They don't want to be humiliated. So yeah, they'll write down things like, I want to look better, I want to lose weight, I want to get into a relationship, get out of a relationship, I want to pay off the debt, I want to start building assets, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. The worst thing you want to see happen in your life is that you're setting these goals again next year because you haven't done anything this year. And that's the reason why I think journaling is so important. If you're writing things down and you're looking at it, you have a better chance of making it happen. Just think about it. If you were to write down, I want to lose 10, 15, 20 pounds, or I want to get into a relationship, or I want to pay off my debt, or I want to build my assets, and you think about it, and then you forget about it on the 2nd of January, and you don't think about it again until 12 months later, what's the chance of you actually hitting that target? It's not good. So the reason why journaling is so important is that you're looking at it, hopefully daily, weekly, monthly, and you're looking at the track record. It's like flying a plane. Can you imagine flying a plane and just, you know, covering up your eyes and not even looking at the instruments or where you're going? That's ridiculous. Or getting in a car and driving someplace and not looking at the GPS or not looking at the directions and just say, well, let's see where this road takes us. Now, you can have that approach, but do you really want to have that approach in some of the major areas of your life, which I would have to think, if you're like me, they're important to you, like your health. You have to focus on your health. You lose your health, game over. It's pretty much game over. Or your relationships, or your finances, or your emotional states, or your career, or your calling, or what is your bliss, as Joseph Campbell talked about. So the number one thing that I think that stops people and allows them to go right back to where they were before, which is their comfort zone, is fear. And it's fear of failure or fear of success. I'm sure you've heard this before, but it really has to do with the fact that, oh, you know I said I want this, but I really don't want to fail. Don't want to look bad. Well, I'm here to tell you that failure is just a perception. Like, what do you mean failure? Like, are you telling me you tried something and it didn't work? Okay, join the club. You know, anybody that's successful in life, and we talked about this last week, they know what they want. Number one, they know what they want, and they're not afraid to go after it. And I dare say they're not afraid to fail because they've rewired their brain or their mind that failure doesn't really exist. I'm taking this course right now from Patricia Fritt, and she has a brother, and she says, or he says, I should say this, I can't quote it exactly. Failure is only failure if you haven't learned something from it. You know, I heard this last week. I was on a Zoom call, and I'm thinking, yeah, no kidding. Like, if you do something and it doesn't work, or you venture out and it doesn't work, I mean, think about a GPS, or think about traveling in a car. You know, you get in the car, you go somewhere. We talked about GPS last week as far as goals and purpose and having many ways to make it happen. You know, there are many ways to make it happen. You know, not just one way, right? So if you understand that and you're going the wrong way, what do? You turn around. I mean, you just simply turn around. I mean, what else are you going to do? So that's key. It's reframing the mind and understanding that failure is just what you think. And if you're afraid of what other people are thinking, I will probably tell you that they're not even thinking about you. You know what they're thinking about? They're thinking about themselves. You know, they're in the same position as you. So venture out, get really clear, and get focused, and don't worry about failure. So some of your wins, I'd love to hear from you. You can send me an email at greg@gregdwyer.com. It's really simple, greg@gregdwyer.com. Send me some of your great things that you're doing. I'd like to hear. Here's a win for me. Small win, but a great win. Today's the 15th of January, and I talked about the fact that I'm going to stay away from a certain coffee place. I'm not going to go every day. Now, that doesn't mean I won't go once in a while, but I'm not going to go every day. So I was looking at my calendar just before I got on here, and I looked at the numbers. I haven't been there in 15 days. And someone came up to me today, and they said, hey, are you losing weight? And I thought, oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay, fine. I said, yeah, I'm losing weight. Why? She says, I noticed. I looked at you today. I kind of noticed, you know, you've lost some weight. Now, I haven't really tried to lose weight, but what I have done is I've made a goal just to stay away from a certain place that I kind of like because of the social interaction and kind of fun. You know, I work for myself, so I don't see a lot of people every day. So I'll go there to meet people, to talk to people. It's kind of like a hangout. Well, you know what she said to me? She goes, do they know your name there? I said, yeah, they know my first name. She says, do they know your order there? I said, yeah, they know my order. Sometimes they hand me the coffee before I put the order in. She says, yeah, okay, that's not good. So I'm breaking that habit, and I'm saving money because I'm not spending like $5 to $10 a day there, and hopefully it's also impacting my health as well. Okay, so enough about me. What about you? What is important to you? If you fell off the wagon and you did something, you know, that didn't work for you and you're 15 days in, don't throw in the towel. Don't throw in the towel and say, oh, well, there's always 2024. No. You don't want to think that way. If you set an intention, you set a goal, and it's not working perfectly for you and you feel like you're failing, just reframe or just change your mind around what failure is. There is no such thing as failure as long as you learn something from it. If you're going the wrong way, you just turn around and you go another way. The other thing that people get hung up on is the past. Oh, I can't believe I've done this again. I always do this. This is how I've been last year and the year before that. Forget about that. You got to let it go. You got to let the past go. Live in the present. Live in the present. Funny story. And I'm digressing a little bit, but I got to tell the story. So yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah. Yesterday I was down in Connecticut, down in East Haven, and I did a lecture. And about 3/4 way through the lecture, I asked people, I said, okay, let's take questions and answers because I've talked for like 45 minutes. I'm sure you got some questions. What do you got? So this lady raised her hand in the front row. So I said, okay, you know, what's your question? And she talked about the concept of time and how time is going so quick and so fast. And she is really focused on being focused and getting focused. And she's done it in her life and she feels like she's mastered it. And I said, well, that's great. She said, but I feel like, time is just going past me so quickly. So I asked her. I just let my intuition, I followed my intuition. And I said, so where are you? Are you in the present? Are you living in the present? And she goes, yeah. I said, you're not living in the past. She goes, no. And you're not living in the future. You're right here now. I said, well, that's a good thing. Being in the present moment, it's really, if you think about it, it's all you have. You can conjure up images about the past, which may or may not be true, right? Because all they are is impressions in your brain, imagination. Or you could worry and think about the future. You can do the same thing. Or you could just live in the moment, right? So then I asked her. Now, I do this thing called the importance of focus, and I use a little bit of mentalism. I use a little bit of mind reading. It's showmanship, no psychic ability. Well, maybe. I don't know. And all of a sudden I said to her, so tell me, who's Dusty? Who's Dusty? And she just gets this look on her face, and she goes, oh, that's my dog. I said, oh, you have a dog? She goes, no, I had a dog in the past. I said, so you wrote down what's important to you, and one of the things that you wrote down is your dog? She said, yeah. Now, I realized that the dog represents something more. It could be, I don't know, comfort, could be companionship, right? I didn't want to go that deep with her, but we had a good laugh together. It was a good thing. And I bring up this because I could have been wrong. Like, I could have said to her, who's Dusty? And she could have said, something else, and it could have gone somewhere else, and then maybe I wouldn't have gotten the laugh, or maybe it wouldn't have worked. But here's the deal. Anything you want to do outside of your comfort zone that is different from what you've done before is going to require you to take some risks. And things might not work. If you really want to play safe, and we saw this a couple years ago, then you don't leave your house. People were talking about 6 feet distance and all of these things. Well, if you really want to stay safe, live in the basement and don't leave the house. Order your groceries and have somebody deliver it. But if you're going to live an abundant life, or you're going to live a life full of color and three-dimensional and a very successful life, you're going to have to face the possibility that some things might not work out. Relationships might not work out. The investment that you buy might not work out. The career, the thing that you really want to go after, you might not get the job. As long as you can see it differently and understand that there is no failure in this equation, as long as you can learn something from it. That really, I think, is the key. That's the magic. So I'm looking at the time here. We got about 16 minutes left. I am going to hit a button here, and we're going to play a quick commercial.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. Do you wish you could sharpen your focus on what matters most to you and achieve more? Then you owe it to yourself to read Greg's ebook at gregdwyerebook.com. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com. Download it today and give it away. As always, we want to thank you for listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio with motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Now back to our show. Take it away, Greg.
So we're talking about failure. Can failure be success? Absolutely. It's just how you look at it. It's how you reframe it. And there really, in my mind, there is no failure. And this is something I haven't said so far today. All there is feedback. That's it. So if you were with me last week was the first time I did this podcast with a camera. Usually it's just over the phone. No one sees my face. When I interview people, it's just over the phone. I call people all over the world. I say, don't even bother, putting on makeup or combing your hair. You can do this broadcast in your pajamas. But this year I said, I'm going to do a podcast, but I'm also going to put it up on YouTube. And sometimes it's going to be video. Sometimes it's going to be just audio. So last week, if you saw it, the video was really high up. And I don't know how it looks now because I'm in this room by myself. I don't have a camera person. But last week, I was really far down, and I had a lot of space above. And I recognized it. When I went into the editing process, I said, okay, There's too much space above me. And I said to myself, who cares? You know, the average person doesn't do anything like this. The average person doesn't make a list. They don't journal. They don't take risks. They don't do anything. So all this is adjustment. That's all it is. It's like you do something, you learn something. You do something, you learn something. You do something, there is no failure. You know, maybe you're going to feel embarrassed. Oh, I can't believe I put that out. That's not perfect. Oh, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. So once we get all of this stuff out of our head, recognize we're never going to be perfect, it's better. So last week when I went out to speak, I said this last week, I said my goal was just simply to connect with my audience. I went out to, I think it was Long Island, and the minute I walked out on stage, I said, look, I'm not going to be perfect here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to connect with the audience. So fast forward or backtrack to yesterday when I did this speech over in East Hartford, I remember I left a little bit out that I totally forgot. And I landed 60 minutes, but I kind of forgot this little piece. And I said to myself as I was coming home, maybe it's not meant to be in the lecture. Who knows? Maybe I'll think about it, reflect on it, I'll throw it out, or maybe I'll use it. Who knows? But my point is, if you understand failure as helping you get closer to what you want and you get feedback from it, then you're free. You're free to create. You're free to do whatever you're going to do, because you're not going to be perfect. So maybe your goal was to improve your health and you kind of backslid, or maybe you said you weren't going to spend any money on your credit card and you saw something on the computer like, I got to have this. So what? Just keep on moving forward, because there is no failure. There's just feedback. And the truth is, I think the only way to get successful is to fail, and to fail a lot. I was listening to Tony Robbins the other day, and he was talking about one of the things to do is massive action. Massive action. So you have a goal, and the goal is out here. What do most people do? They don't do anything. But the people that do something, they'll try something. They'll say, well, I tried this and it didn't work. And they're like, well, maybe next year. One of the things he talks about, which I agree 100%, is just massive action. Massive action. I saw somebody the other day, it was a week ago, he says, you've lost weight. I said, yeah. He said, yeah. I said, how you do it? What did you do? How are you doing it? He says, it's really simple. I just get on my exercise machine. I think it's a treadmill, and I've been watching what I'm eating. I'm not eating out of a bag. I'm not eating out of a fast food plate. He says, I'm looking at what I'm buying and spending my money on, good stuff, and I'm also exercising. I said, good for you. I says, I've noticed it. So that's the key. The key is to realize that every step that you make towards what you want is getting you closer and closer and closer to your dream. And you got to track it. I think that's the best way to get feedback, is tracking it. So this is a true story, and hopefully it'll inspire you. 2 days ago, I started thinking about my lecture, The Magic, I almost said The Magic of Communication. We'll have to edit that out. That was a mistake. It's not The Magic of Communication. That was something I did many, many years ago. But I was kind of thinking of that. It's called The Importance of Focus. And I got this crazy idea that I was going to go to this lecture on Saturday, and I was going to take any props. None, you know. I have a couple props. Now, when I started back in 2016, I had 12 props, all right? And I had a professional cameraman that worked on Long Island. He came out and he videotaped it. And we never talked other than, you know, setting it all up, and he recorded it professionally. This is like 6 years ago, going on 7. It was October. And I had 12 props and 12 magic effects. So in an hour, that's a lot of magic effects. That's a lot of things. It's a lot of props. It was one prop after another, and it was called The Magic of Communication. I guess that's why I was thinking of it. So it was called The Magic of Communication. I did it in a church in Long Island. We had about 25, 30 people there. And it was my first attempt at putting together a motivational speech. And I knew what I was doing in the mindset that I had at the time. I did the best that I could do, and it turned out great. I mean, people loved it. I was really happy with it. When I watched the video and I looked back at the performance, I thought, this is great. However, it's not where I am today because a lot has changed, from then to now. And what's changed is really my mindset. So I went from 12 attempts at magic tricks, right, to yesterday a lecture called The Importance of Focus, and the only thing I walked on stage with was a coin. Now, if I were to go back in time to try to do that in 2016 and entertain and educate my audience just with a quarter, I'm sure I couldn't have done it. There is no way I could have done that. And I'm just being honest with you. 2016, I got these 12 things, and I thought, I could put this together and do 60 minutes because I had these props which were propping me up, if you know what I mean. In other words, I was relying on these things. And the cameraman said to me after he's doing the filming back in 2016, he says, I liked it, it was good, but I really expected it to be more talking points, less magic tricks. And then one time I did the presentation somewhere, and it was a packed house, and the guy says, I don't know what you are you a magician or are you a motivational speaker? Here's the reason I'm telling you this. The only way that I could do the presentation yesterday with just showing up with a quarter is that I had to take massive action over the last 6 years. In fact, last year was my best year ever. September, October, November, I was out on the road 8, 9, 10 times, 12 times a month, which was a dream come true for me. I always wanted to do that. But one of the things that helped me was I was going out, giving the lecture, coming back, that night watching the video, the next morning traveling to the next destination and doing it again and again and again and again. So I belong to this group of people that do coaching and mentorship for speakers, and I gave them my feedback. I said, yeah, I did 12 speaking events this month. I got 9 or 10 coming up in October, November. I got another 12 or 13 coming up. And they're like, what's going on with you? I said, well, I'm just booking these, and I'm getting out there because the only way that I'm going to get this thing tight and get it where I want it is I got to go out there and try this material. I can't just sit here in my house and just write this stuff down and think about it. I got to get out there and test it and go back. And, I know that other people have done this. Jerry Seinfeld has done this. Steve Martin, if you ever read his book or look at some of his things like on his masterclass, it's the same process. You have this product or a speech or whatever it is, you present it to the world, and then you refine it. I don't care if it's art. I don't care if it's your body. I don't care if it's your finances. It's the same process, really. I mean, for me, it's the speech, called The Importance of Focus. But it can apply to anything that you're doing. It's understanding that you have something that you want to improve and you want to focus on. And the worst thing you could do, and the worst thing that I could have done, is go, yeah, you're right. There was a lot of magic tricks. I'm done. I'm not going to do this. The average person doesn't put this much time into anything. So pick what is really important to you, whether it's your relationships, your health, your money, your career, your passion, whatever it is, and realize that if you're really going to be good at it, you're going to have to put in a lot of hours, and you have to get into your head. There is no failure here. There's just feedback. And not only is there feedback, there is no such thing as failure. I mean, if you're improving and you're learning something from it, how could you call it failure? Hopefully this has inspired you. Here we are on the 15th of January. I don't know where you are in your goals. I don't have any idea what's important to you, but I want to encourage you to stay on the track and realize that if you push up against the wall, or you push up against some kind of frustration, or you push up against something that isn't working, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it. Maybe you should just change your approach, because there's several ways for you to get what you want. You think about the GPS, you have a goal, you have a purpose, you have several ways to get there. You just have to understand that there isn't a thing called failure as long as you learn something. Now, I know I've been beating this horse dead over again, but I think it's the one barrier that stops people from following through, because let's face it, when it comes to New Year's Eve resolutions, most people don't make them, and the people that do make them, I would say by the 15th or the 25th of January, they're going back to their old patterns. And I think the biggest thing that gets in the way for them is just they don't want to fail. They're afraid of failing. And in my coaching business, and I don't do a lot of coaching, I'm very picky on who I work with, and that's not a sales technique. I'm not, trying to tell you that I only work with certain people, but it's true. I only work with certain people because I don't want to work with people who don't really want to make the change and the sacrifice and push past the barrier. As most people, I think, want to stay comfortable. And no matter what you're going to do, I don't care if it's improving your health, your relationships, your finances, it's going to take time. And there are going to be days when you're going to say, wow, that was a terrible situation. That was a terrible lecture. That was a terrible experience, and I'm just going to go and pull the covers over my head, and I'm going to quit. Well, yeah, you can quit, but start again a new day. I think every single day is a new day to attempt to get closer and closer to what you want. So hopefully I've encouraged you to reframe this topic in your head, to realize that you got to get clear on what you want. That's really important. But you also have to understand that there are going to be barriers. Any good play, any good movie, anything that you listen to as far as drama, there's always the person, what's the word I'm trying to think of, procrastinator, no, not procrastinator, the person that is the main person in the story. He or she is going up against the enemy, the dragon, the fear, and they have to break past it. And that's the key. Once you understand that, you don't have to worry about failing, because there is no such thing as failure. All right, so hopefully I gave you something to think about. Getting focused and staying focused, that's really what's important. And one of the things that you have to realize is you just have to look at it differently. And when you look at it differently, you see things differently, and every single day is a new day. So we'll catch you next week, and we'll see how you're doing on your New Year's Eve resolutions. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. Check out Greg at gregdwyer.com. Be sure to download his ebook at gregdwyerebook.com to stay focused on what matters most to you. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com. We want to thank you for listening. Now go make a difference in your world.